Herald of Leviathan. A trench Crusade fan made story. Water came torrenting down off the murky silhouette of hulking armour. Massive rusted features and dull metal lumbered out of the waves, heavy thudded footsteps heralding the arrival of his malicious intent. A deep ominous glow peeked out from tiny lenses behind the pressurized portholes of the Anointed One's diving suit. From the depths, a colossal figure violently erupted out of the water, like the sea itself was disgorging a hellish wound from its soul, its armour shedding torrents of water as it broke the surface. The murky waters revealed a behemoth of rusted metal, its massive form moving with a ponderous grace that belied its threatening presence. Each heavy step a thunderous drumbeat heralding its malicious intent. Behind the pressurized glass lenses of its diving apparatus, a deep ominous glow ebbed out a foreboding light, hinting at the malevolent intentions within. It was not here for money. It was not here to even spread the domain of hell and its territory on the living, though that may be byproducts of its arrival. It was here for three things and three things only: to kill, steal, and destroy. Kill the faith, steal and enslave their living, and destroy their temples. These were always the objectives of the naval raiders. No glory to attain, no mountains of fortune to covet over. But what they did not seek in material gain, they made up for in flesh. It began at 3 a.m. Slowly but steadily, droves of dark, smaller silhouettes began to emerge from the shore, trailing like shadows cast behind the Anointed One. As the remaining droplets steamed off their hell-forged armour, sizzling and spatting, a wake of sweet rot and salt water followed in the air. They could taste it, the mortal troops on their tongue. It was permeating through the enclave's walls. Half-sleep sentries milling along their ramparts, or watchtowers started grabbing at their face. The reek of sulphur and hellfire slowly began to burn the backs of their eyes, and they started to unwillingly claw at them for relief. They could see them now, like lone pillars of a destroyed pier rising above the waves. But what the soldiers did not see was the amalgamation of heretics skulking in the shadows that had already breached their walls a half-mile down the coastline. Slowly, as the perimeter crumbled under the presence of Hell's arrival, a siren began to scream across the fort. Antioch yeomen scrambled sleepily out of barracks. Gunneries were passing out munitions and equipping the unprepared soldiers as they stumbled out of sleep and protection of their tents, but were swiftly met with bloody ends as the heretics met them where they were, brutally slaughtering and disgorging the unprepared. A hell-forged axe burning with runes inscribed from the lake of fire struck and dislodged entrails from a soldier marked with a lieutenant's rank insignia. Stooping to grab the broken body before it hit the ground, it held up the lieutenant's limp form in the air with one hand, dropping the axe with the other as it began to tear his head out from the base of its spine. A loud guttural and demonic roar echoed across the supernatural fog as the Anointed One held its trophy for all to see. This marked the end of their stealth, as he had exclaimed the signal for wanton carnage. Around half of the new Antioch forces were either mentally broken by this, or too far gone from the reek of hell to notice. As they dropped to their knees weeping, some uttering half-spoken prayers and choking on blood, heretic troops began to glide through the dark, disemboweling with rusted blades, some dragging kicking and screaming men back into the depths from which they came, forcing them to take heaping gulps of salt water into their lungs as they tried begging out for mercy, until they couldn't. Pyres of fire began to burn, weeping ash and smut onto the ground as one by one wooden buildings and shacks hastily thrown together were demolished into heaping cinder. The sky glowed a sickly red as screams of agony and frantic orders were echoed across the carnage. He dropped the corpse and it thudded, collapsing unto itself. What was once a battle-hardened, faithful soldier who had stacked decades of combat achievements and campaigns behind his self lay there heaped like a sack of flesh. A calm, savage evil stared hungrily behind the slime-encrusted dive lenses, sweeping a piercing glow red across the immediate landscape. The Anointed One spotted the church's steeple, backlit from the glow of fire and embers dancing its silhouette across the war-torn settlement. Slowly lurching forward, he shifted his heavy plated boots against the beachhead, drudging up heaps of sand as he lumbered towards the cathedral. Echoes of pain, slaughter and laughter plagued the air and drifted together in a sick cacophony of hell. Blood slicked across the cobblestone and ever so often flecked the lenses of his helm as yeomen and the like were dispatched on serrated blades and dashed against the broken rock faces that made up the cliff bluffs bordering the beachhead. Still he continued onward, finally stepping into the breach of the church's archways. Heavy thuds accentuated by cracking tile webbed away from each step. His footprints smoked and reeked of sulphur as it scraped and pummeled against holy ground. And upon approach of the splintered altar, he prepared his muse. There, on an old wooden cross behind the pulpit, now lay a bright red grisly visage to behold. A skinless man once bearing the heraldry and resemblance of a once stoic and proud chaplain, now hung limply, skin flayed completely from his body and hanging from his ankles. The ceiling of the chapel was pocked with artillery shell fire, and the dim, hazy glow of the sun rising overhead began to creep into the shadows of the monastery. The Anointed One shook bits of flesh off his rusted gauntlet, as a black ichor seemed to leak between his suit's seams, not residing but for a moment over his blasphemous effigy to briefly take in the taint and corruption he had afflicted on this village. He twisted, and with the sound of old ship metal creaking, turned towards the direction of the beachhead. Slowly stooping deeper and deeper into the depths, one by one they all began to be swallowed up by the waves as they made their exit, some of which found to be dragging battered and beaten Antioch troops, the ones unfortunate enough to not fall within the first wave of attacks, now meeting a darker, prolonged suffering as they were violently drowned in the salt water. Each brutal death paid homage to one of the demon lordlings sponsoring this satanic pilgrimage for souls. What was once a timid but bustling enterprise of a fishing hamlet now lay desolate. Blackened, charred fishing nets, huts and blood-strewn bodies littered the sand, the only remaining sign that there was ever human life here. Ash now quietly coating the chaos in a small layer of soot.